What's up gamers, Dreamcastguy here, talking today about the Xbox Series X, which is of course Microsoft's upcoming console. Now right now, they've been doing a bunch of different interviews and talks trying to explain why this next console generation is just going to be so hyped. They're saying that this will be a new generation of graphics and gameplay, but today they just did a talk that is, well, it's honestly a huge freaking problem. So currently, Matt Booty, he's the head of Xbox Game Studios. He's the guy who's actually in charge of the 15 exclusive developers. Microsoft is a huge multi-billion-dollar corporation, so they own a lot of different people that are all making games for Microsoft platforms. And so when this guy talks, it's very important to try and listen to what he's saying. Well, today, he confirmed there is going to be no launch exclusives. Yeah, listen to that exactly. There will be no launch exclusives for the Xbox Series X. Every single game that's coming out on it will play on the Xbox One, and a lot of them will also probably play on PC. Now I want to read you this quote because that's probably something that's kind of blowing your mind out because I know it's happening to me. Let me read you his exact words because I've never heard a quote so insane in my life. During an interview with the website MCV, he said this: "As our content comes out over the next year, 2 years, all of our games, sort of like PC, will play up and down the family of devices," Booty explains. "We want to make sure that if someone invests in an Xbox between now and Series X, that they'll feel that they've made a good investment and that we're committed to them with content. Our approach is to pick 1 or 2 IPs that are going to be focused on to make sure that they're there for the launch of the console, taking advantage of all the features. And for us, that's going to be Halo Infinite, which is a big opportunity. It's the first time in 15 years that we'll have a Halo title available at launch in sync with the new console. And that team is definitely going to be doing things to try and take advantage of Series X." Let me just go over that real slowly in case you didn't completely catch it. Everything that's coming out on Xbox Series X is also coming out on the Xbox One. Now, here's why that's weird. There's a couple pieces of it. The first thing that we have to address is the fact that why is anybody going to buy an Xbox Series X, especially if they're broke? Now, the next console generation is definitely going to be a little bit different than usual because, well, we know that they're all going to be backwards compatible. It sounds like the PlayStation 5 is going to play PlayStation 4 games, and the Xbox Series X plays Xbox One, Xbox 360, and original Xbox games. This is a generation that's trying to blur the lines between where one thing stops and one thing begins. So I think that more people were already on board with the idea of buying this next style. A lot of people are saying, of course I'll upgrade because I'm not losing anything, I'm just gaining more graphics. Here's the thing though, the main reason you jump over to the next console generation is the exclusives, is the games that are impossible to run on old tech. Now, this is a little bit of a flashback, but I still remember when people were first really getting good at making Xbox 360 games. At this point, there was still some Xbox stuff. The original Xbox was still around, but as soon as we saw the original Assassin's Creed and saw open world gaming for the first time, where we saw stuff where people actually had cities with hundreds of individual characters. There had been big games before that, but as soon as we saw those first Xbox 360 exclusives, we realized that the game, the universe, the landscape of gaming had completely changed. New console generations take a bit to really take off. You need to try and sell people on why they have to buy your specific $400 box. This quote though, as our content comes out over the next year, 2 years, all of our games will work up and down the family of devices. Really let that sink in. That means we may not see an Xbox Series X exclusive until 2022. Because he said a year or two. That means that we have all of this year, 2020, all of next year, 2021, we might not see a single exclusive game completely built for the ground up on Xbox Series X until 2022. Now that to me is a very, very strange statement, because they're basically saying you don't have to buy the next generation. Don't give us your money. Just keep playing it on whatever you have right now. That is good if you're broke. To be perfectly honest, I think that if you're a little bit of a budget gamer, this is fantastic news. As a person though who does get excited about new tech and big new flashy games, this to me is just odd. The biggest thing here is that I think Microsoft is making so much of their profit now purely off of game sales, off of Game Pass. They're not really getting any profit off selling you the hardware. This is how they're staying profitable. The way that they're going to stay in business is by getting everybody to buy their games. That's why they've been selling so much even on PC. They've even been taking their games and taking them off the Microsoft store and putting them on Steam just because it's all pure profit. The weirdest thing though is the idea of, imagine not getting a really solid Xbox Series X game until 2022. That is a recipe for disaster. I've been alive a very long time. You could probably okay boomer me in the comments, but I've actually watched the rise and fall of companies like Atari. I watched the big crash of gaming that kind of happened in like the late 80s, even though I was a little kid at the time. I saw as Nintendo rose to power and invented things like the Game Boy. I've seen a lot of people launch a lot of different consoles, and many of them just completely go down in flames. And the biggest key to success has always been exclusives. If you make that killer app, the thing that's just so awesome that people are willing to buy your system just to play it, you have an instant success. This to me is just such an obvious catastrophe, because why is anybody going to do it? I've already seen hundreds and hundreds of people online being like, fantastic, now I don't need to buy a Series X. I do want to give Microsoft a little bit of leeway here, because we have heard statements like this in the past. We actually saw this towards the end of like the PlayStation 3 generation. A lot of people like Ubisoft and Activision had these really weird public statements where they were saying, we're going to support the last generation for years and years and years. And we even saw a little bit of this with things like Call of Duty Ghosts, games like, of course, Rise of the Tomb Raider or Titanfall. We saw this cross-generational blurring of lines, but at a certain point, once the PlayStation 4 really started taking off, a lot of people just said, all right, screw the last generation. Watching them change their minds wasn't exactly a giant shakeup. I mean, we could kind of predict that this would take place, and I still kind of believe that we may see this with Microsoft. If they end up selling like 10 million Xbox Series X in the first year, I think that they're going to go back on this statement. I think that right now they're trying to hedge their bets. They don't want to completely tank the Xbox One just because of all this Series X talk. The Xbox One was never exactly a giant seller in the first place, so the last thing they want to do is take that number all the way down to zero. This is, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm about to get a nosebleed. I'm still just in such utter shock. I've never heard a console developer tell you not to buy a console, but that is essentially what this statement is. We're gonna have to see how this shakes out. We are still obviously like 8-10 months away at least from the next generation of systems, but I feel like you need to do something different. At the very least, Microsoft, you need to try and tell us why the Series X is important. At the very least, I'm just giving you a random suggestion, you need to make Series X exclusive content. Make something. Maybe make it where you can buy the game anywhere, but the best graphics and the DLC or something only exists on the next gen. Maybe put extra levels or extra characters. You have to do something to incentivize people to say, hey, this is where things come next. The PlayStation 5 is already talking about big exclusive games. The PlayStation 5 is already showing that this is where things are going. You need to try and jump ahead of the Sony bandwagon or you're gonna get sunk. But what do you guys think? I'm sorry if I'm just kind of being off the cuff. I am genuinely just stunned. I just read this news and I had to talk about it. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. And tell me in the comments down below, would you buy a Series X? Let's just say hypothetically, what if it is just a $400 machine that does have some upgraded graphics, but it doesn't have a single exclusive? To you, is that worth the price tag? Tell me what you think. I really want to read the comments on this one. Thank you for watching. Do me a big favor and have a great day. But do me a big favor and keep dreaming. I'm actually just kind of befuddled by this. Matt Booty, what are you doing at Xbox? Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.